Take 3 celebrities. Send them off to a remote house in the country. Then seal them in. With no computers, TVs, newspapers or mobile phones, they'll be completely cut off from the outside world. So how will they know what's been going on while they've been in the bubble? Good evening. I'm David Mitchell and welcome to The Bubble, the show where we ask 3 celebrities to spend the week completely cut off from the outside world. No newspapers, no TV, no internet, nothing. So they don't know anything at all about the Second Falklands War. Sorry, Malvinas War. Before we release them back into Gran Britannia, we're going to show them a selection of news reports. Some of them are genuine, some of them have been faked. But will they be able to tell the difference? So let's meet tonight's guests. Straight from the bubble, please welcome John Richardson, Germaine Greer and Ed Byrne. Hello and welcome to you all. And you have genuinely been cut off from all the news for the whole of this week. Any clues to what might have been going on at all?
We played fantasy news, but it got a bit samey. We couldn't get Jeremy Clarkson out of it.
We're determined that he sent naked photographs of himself to Piers Morgan. That's what we decided. That's what he's done. Has he?
Well, you'll have to wait and see.
Was it Anne Widdecombe?
What?
No, not Anne Widdecombe sending...
Jeremy Clarkson sending naked photos of himself to Anne Widdecombe. That's probably the least disgusting way those words can be turned into a sentence, but it's still not great.
I imagine that Jeremy Clarkson's penis looks like an identical miniature Jeremy Clarkson.
Do you know, I've been on this earth for 35 years and I have never bothered to try and imagine Jeremy Clarkson's penis. So, let's begin. I'm about to show you a selection of news stories, TV reports, headlines and newspaper articles from recent days. All you have to do is decide which are the real stories and which are the fakes. What could be simpler than that? So, let's start with some TV news story. You're going to see 3 news reports, but only one of these has genuinely been on the TV news while you've been in the bubble. The other 2 are fakes. Can you spot the real story? So let's have a look at Report A.
What do you get if you cross Norman Tebbit, a no-nonsense politician, with a fancy-dressed dragon? The dragon was leading Chinese New Year celebrations outside the Canton restaurant in Bury St Edmunds. Down the road, Lord Tebbit, unaware what the celebrations were for, is reported to have been so angered by the noise, he strode out of his house, down the road, and confronted the revellers. There's even a suggestion in today's paper that the 77-year-old may have kicked the dragon, leaving the child inside it upset.
Maybe you should go on an anger management course, I don't know. I think that's what I'd advise if it's true that he did kick up such a fuss.
Mr Chung, the restaurant owner, has held the same celebrations for the past 20 years. Lord Tebbit has now apologised for his actions, telling the Mirror, "I got jostled by a dragon. I've never been jostled by a dragon before. I gave it a shove and then got on my way." And 2010 is the year of the tiger, who, according to Chinese folklore, are notoriously short-tempered.
Well, it wouldn't be the first obnoxious dragon Norman Tebbit's had to deal with. But, so, Germaine, does that strike you as something Lord Tebbit would do?
Jostling someone, yes, but I've always associated him with Chingford. I can't think what on earth he's doing in Bury St Edmunds. Something's gone astray, isn't it?
What a thing to take umbrage with in that story. Norman Tebbit in Bury St Edmunds.
So you think he lives in Chingford, not Bury St Edmunds?
Well, I think he was called the Chingford Strangler or something like that, wasn't he?
Really?
Well,
is that proved? OK, well, anyway, we'll move on and have a look at Report B.
Lions, famous for being the biggest carnivores in the animal kingdom, until now. One of the lions at Woburn Safari Park has swapped her normal diet of raw meat for pumpkin.
Well, about 3 months ago, she got a nasty cut just on the inside of her leg, but it was quite deep, and we had to get the vet out, and we knocked her out to get her stitched up. When we let her out again, she just wasn't interested in the meat at all. We tried all different sorts, you know.
The safari park keepers were so concerned they tried everything to try to get Gemma's appetite roaring again.
Some of the staff just started chucking a bit of veg out, and she just took to it. But her favourite's pumpkin, so now we give her pumpkins as much as we can.
So for now, Gemma is happy and healthy again, even if the other lions don't quite know what to make of her vegetarian diet.
I'd like to reassure sensitive viewers that no animals were hurt in the making of that report, but a deer was savagely mutilated, as you saw. So, Ed, what did you make of that?
I don't buy that the head of carnivores. He seemed like an extra from a Guy Ritchie film. He seemed like, you know, she had a bit of an injury. We had her stitched up, you know. Say no more.
What do you expect a bloke that basically mucks out tigers? Are you expecting a monocle and a cigarette holder?
I believe every single word of it, because I once met a Labrador that came to visit my dogs, and it ate my prize pumpkin.
Really?
It just chewed its way from one side of it to the other, and then treated us all to a display of pyrotechnics involving considerable quantities of intestinal gas. No one has told you what it's like standing near that lioness.
That's what I would be worried about, stood next to a lion, would be the risk of a fart. He wasn't a very technical man, was he? We started frying veg at her. Didn't ask a doctor or, you know, a vet or anything. Nah, just started chucking pumpkins, turnips, offer a parsnip, hit her in the eye. It was well funny.
What would you do if a lion in your charge went off its meat?
That is not a fair question. He is not in a position. He's not a head of carnivores at Woburn Safari Park.
Your allegation is neither's that guy.
But the burden is not on us to know what the right thing is to do.
Just
if
asking...
one of your lions goes vegetarian on you.
Well, let's have a look at Report C.
Now, bullying has been in the news all week after it was reported in a new book that Prime Minister Gordon Brown has, in the past, lost his temper in the office and been seen shouting at people who work for him and throwing things across the room. Yesterday, 2 former ministers came forward with their stories. Charles Clarke, who left the government 2 years ago, claims that he was regularly made fun of because of his ears. And former Minister Hazel Greer says she had to put up with constant jokes about her height, she's under 5 feet tall, and her red hair.
There can be a very fine line between teasing and bullying. If it is bullying, then as a society, we've simply got to send out the message that we won't tolerate it, full stop. Whether it's happening in the playground, whether it's happening in the workplace, or whether or not it's true, even in Downing Street.
And if bullying is an issue that concerns you, or you would just like to find out more about how to tackle this problem, then please do visit our website where you can find a list of contact details.
Rather odd to pick on Charles Clarke's ears when he's so incompetent and fat. But, John, do you think that's the sort of thing children's TV would broadcast, or would the switchboard just be jammed with kids asking what a Prime Minister is?
I kind of stopped listening. She spoke just slowly enough that I wanted to kill myself after that. Seems conceivable, though. He's got big ears, hasn't he? Admit it, everyone in the room, when that came up, before she'd even said her sentence, thought, Christ, he's got big ears.
It looks like he'd be unable to hear things that were happening behind him. All the people behind his back saying he's got big ears. Yeah. So how does that look in plausibility compared to the other two?
Well, the news story is real. I mean, that was going on last week. There was talk of Brown bullying people in Downing Street. But, correct me if I'm wrong, but that floating N that went by behind her, isn't that Newsround? Isn't that the symbol for Newsround, which is a BBC show? And I was watching this last week, and we made great hay of the fact that the BBC couldn't fake any news reports. So unless Newsround isn't considered a news programme, and they were actually just lying to the nation's children...
But things could have changed while you were in the bubble?
They could have,
Yeah.
but knowing the BBC, they haven't.
OK, so that's looking plausible for you for that reason?
For that reason, yes.
So I'll recap the three stories. Is it A, Lord Tebbit kicked a child? B, a lion adopts a pumpkin-only diet? Or C, Blears and Clark claim they were bullied? So which is the real story? Please vote A, B or C now. Oh, you've all gone for Blears and Clark. Well, I am afraid to have to tell you that the correct answer is A. Lord Tebbit kicked a child. Yes, the child was dressed as a dragon. In fact, the child was dressed as the dragon's bottom. Someone else was playing the dragon's head. Presumably, the dragon's head could say whatever he liked to Lord Tebbit, and all Lord Tebbit could do was kick the person behind him. That's called being unaccountable.
Was I wrong about that being news round then?
You were.
Right.
It was what that was mocked up by us. What we did to make it look like news round was deploy the letter N. Yeah.
But did you deploy the news round letter N, or is that just any old N?
The actual news round logo is in fact an N and an R. The BBC News have tried to copyright the letter N, but it's not allowed. What we did have to do is reverse the colours of the background, because we'd done it, I think, as that kind of purpley colour on blue, which apparently Newsround have, so we had to reverse it, because only they're allowed to use those colours. Because we're just comedy scum. But nevertheless, it still looked plausible enough.
It fooled us.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not an avid watcher of news rounds, not as much as I used to be. Then they've changed the logo since then. And she wasn't born when I used to watch news rounds. So...
They have changed it a lot since John Craven said hello again.
Yeah.
I mean, every day I loved it. He'd say hello again. I said, that's rather presumptuous. I was, it happened, watching previously, but did he say hello again in the first episode? In which case, that would be insane. But yes, I wasn't surprised you went for the Brown bullying story, because it has been in the news, but there have been no accusations from Clark and Blears. But what's happened while you've been away, on Monday, the National Bullying Helpline claimed to have had a number of calls from number 10 Downing Street, and the head of that organisation, Christine Pratt, went public with that, because it's supposed to be...
What is it about this woman you think made her want to set up an anti-bullying helpline?
It was supposed to be a confidential helpline. Then she went public in an attempt to, basically, it seems, smear the government. And then most of the patrons of her charity resigned. Anyway, this has, you're quite right, been a big story all week. And I think it's most succinctly and emotionally expressed in this clip from Taiwanese news.
I have never hit anybody in my life.
直布朗气起来会拿笔 K 人，李秘书打字太慢，他看不顺眼，索性一把扯开他，害他跌倒，自己动手来打，丢饮料罐。有一次，幕僚向他报告坏消息，他情绪失控，猛捶前座椅背，吓得幕僚缩在一旁。他扫到台风尾，布朗和部下开会，常常拍桌飙粗话。倒霉的。
I don't think when walking along the corridor and he sort of has that thing where he's trying to get out of somebody's way and they're trying to get out of his way, that he would give it 2 moves before going, oh, arse! I don't think he's...
And I think that goes beyond any allegation that's been made.
Yeah.
Although I've never seen the Prime Minister look better. In that moment, just jump to side and then smack.
I want to know what that woman was supposed to have been doing on the computer and failing to do. You made her drag her off and throw her to the ground. I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And in another report about Gordon Brown's behaviour, it's alleged that when he was touring a factory, he flew into a rage whilst taking a phone call and hurled a tangerine into a laminating machine. So at the end of that round, none of you got it right, so I keep the points. Next, we move on to the newspapers. So 3 stories again, and only one of them genuinely featured in a newspaper while you were inside the bubble. The other 2 are fakes. Can you spot the real story? Here's story A. This is the story that a lookalike of Osama bin Laden, at least they assume it's a lookalike, is working as a bin man in Salford. Seen there carrying a bin of nuclear waste. So, must be a Tuesday. John, what do you think of that?
I'm dubious about the name Bob Bilson for a journalist. And I'm dubious about the fact that if it's a lookalike, they still had to use an image of Bin Laden and not the man himself. It would be newsworthy if they showed the man who looked like Bin Laden and went, "Doesn't he look like Bin Laden?" But just showing Bin Laden and going, "There's a man that looks like Bin Laden." Reeks of bullshit.
Also, his arm doesn't match his face.
No, I mean... the face has been photoshopped on there, I think.
But you'd think, wouldn't you, that his arm could have been photoshopped to match it?
Yes.
They were just a bit sloppy.
The press is sloppy all the time, but now you're saying the fact that it's sloppy makes it look like we've done it. OK, well, let's have a look at story B. Dynamite can cure prostate cancer. And indeed anything else you're suffering from.
Newspapers come out with stories about things that can cause or cure cancer all the time. So even if it hasn't been this week, I'm sure at some point, somewhere, probably in either the Mail or the Express, it's been said that dynamite can cure cancer.
Because they basically go through the dictionary, say
everything
and going...
and then they flip a coin to decide whether it could cure or cause cancer.
And if it lands on its edge, they do a story on coin lands on its edge.
And the idiotic thing, of course, is the illustration, because that isn't what they're talking about.
No, there's no way that in that form it would... well, it would be a pretty extreme... It would probably get rid of the cancer and the house in which it was contained. Well, let's have a look at story C. And this is that Nick Griffin is breeding albino rats. So what do you think, Germaine?
I feel a bit guilty about this, because I have white doves.
Are you a dove racist? Is that what you're saying?
I'm afraid... Well, because other doves get into the dovecot and the results are pretty unattractive and spoil the look of it on the roof. So people tend to pick them off with an air rifle every now and then.
Right.
Just so they look coordinated.
People you employ?
Oh, yeah, there's a young man at the grain store who does it just to keep his eye in, really. I mean, I'm not actually paying him.
What's he keeping his eye in for?
Shooting more pigeons, because they're a big...
I thought you were offering sexual favours.
I think he'd probably never come again if I did. So I find that's an entirely plausible story.
Right.
But what we don't know is whether it ever appeared in a newspaper, which is what we're being asked, is it?
That's it, yes.
Why would he possibly want rats?
Maybe it's to make himself look more cuddly and human if he sits next to some rats, you know. The same sort of thinking that made Gordon Brown be interviewed by Piers Morgan. You know what? Gordon Brown is comparatively non-repulsive.
Some people breed tarantulas.
Yeah.
I mean, people breed all sorts of disgusting things.
I had a guinea pig called Vivian.
What colour was it?
He was brown and white, with a little bit of black, because I am not a racist.
I had a brief tropical fish phase. I had a tropical fish tank, which is a complicated thing to set up, because you need a pump and a heater and all that sort of thing. And I got some tropical fish, and then tropical fish don't live very long, and so they gradually died one by one. And I thought, that's fine, actually, because it's boring keeping tropical fish. They're not very affectionate. But then there was this one tiny tropical fish that would not die. And I had to keep that. I thought, I can't kill it. I've brought it into this fake tropical world. I'm not going to... I had this heater and this pump going. God, no, the carbon footprint of this tropical fish was massive. It lived, I swear, it lived for 5 years. How old is that? That's like 2,000 years in tropical fish years.
I just love the idea, because keeping fish is supposed to be very relaxing.
I used to sit there
you
for
just
hours.
coming in and everything, it's still alive!
Die, you little shit, die! Anyway, to recap, is it A, Bin Laden lookalike working on the bins in Salford? B, dynamite can cure cancer? Or C, Nick Griffin breeds albino rats? So could you vote now, please?
If it's A, I'm going to be really angry.
Well, you've all gone for B, Dynamite can cure cancer.
No, we're never going to have a clear winner if we keep agreeing.
Well, you obviously gelled in the house because you've gone for the same thing again. But this time, you're all right. Dynamite has been heralded as a possible cure for prostate cancer. Although, as you say, this is from the Daily Mail health section, who are probably running out of things that might affect cancer one way or the other.
To catch a killer, you must think like a killer.
And
Too much of that game. Too much of the Xbox, honestly. It's a wonder he's still sane. He's been shot so many times. There's nothing in that chair.
you've been playing a lot of Xbox
I have.
in the beautiful rural Lincolnshire.
Well, Germaine sits there knitting a jumper for her greyhound next to me. Seriously, while I'm trying to kill people on Modern Warfare 2. If you ever want the joy of killing people on a computer game sucked out of you, do it in front of a feminist, and you do it in front of Germaine Greer, preferably, sitting there knitting going, I don't know why men are so obsessed with war, I really don't. That will ruin your gaming experience.
Look, it's not true. Most of the time I just said to him things like, aren't you dead?
Yeah. She was really paying attention as well. It was really funny.
He was dead a lot.
Yeah, right. War is hell, Germaine, war is hell. She was really paying attention. She didn't realise how much attention she was paying until... Did you die again? Yeah. You're never going to catch Makarov now, are you?
That sounds sort of idyllic.
You were far more relaxed shooting people than you were knitting.
Oh,
you were actually quite chilled out shooting innocent people in an airport, but you were effing and jeffing and... I got a knot in my fucking wall.
Well, so would you if you knitted. And you've got expensive wool there, and you go knit, and suddenly there's a bloody great knot. How dare they? I mean, a proper knot. There was not just a tangle, a big...
4 days of this.
4 days.
Well, anyway, at the end of that round, you all get a point. And this was the point at which I was going to ask you how you've been getting on in the house. But obviously, it's been a lot of killing and a lot of knitting and a lot of swearing.
Yeah. We played a lot of Scrabble.
Oh, he's so moralistic. I put down squit. And he said, you could have put down quits. As if you would. I mean, when you've got squit, would you go for quits?
Yes, no, absolutely. Rude is better, right?
And then the argument over whether or not one can be a squit. Oh, that raged for a while. I tell you what, if you also want to cause a breakup amongst people, put them in a house where they can't have the TV or the news or anything like that, give them a Scrabble board and no dictionary. Right. And then watch the sparks fly.
I think you could have been allowed to... Sorry, a squit. What,
yes, if you were squitting, if you were sitting there and you had the squits, then you were sitting a squit.
He's all a squit.
He's all a squit, yeah. Right. Then you could do a word across there with an A in it, leading to the triple word score, and boom, the game is yours.
He had a dodgy Vindaloo, and now he's all a squit.
He sits a squit.
He sits a squit.
See if you can tell, David, who you think took Scrabble the most seriously.
well, in fact, we have some footage of this game.
Just look. I mean, this isn't fair. Nobody... Look, camera, nobody ever had a hand like that.
I'm going to say that's whore.
Well, anyone's got that.
That's cheating.
That's the game.
You can't do that. If you've just got an R, you can take the blank.
You can.
I can take your blank and put an R down.
No!
Yes!
No, only in Germaine's house.
You can. The official rules state a variation exists where... But that's a variation of the rules. Basic rules...
Official, but not the official rules.
Say... But you can change letters, but they haven't said when.
You've both got 179, so you've got to do the subtraction for second place.
I've only got to lose one.
Yeah. Come back. Come on.
Please, don't stop. Oh, no.
What you didn't see there is the R that I could have taken with that blank would have allowed me to make the word universe, thus achieving a 50-point bonus and winning the game, which I went on to lose. But I'm not bothered, I'm fine about it.
OK, our final round is on the buzzer. I'll read you some news stories from the last week that may or may not be real. If you're first to buzz in, please answer fake or real. If you're right, you win a point, but if you're wrong, you'll lose a point. And I can tell you there's absolutely nothing in it. Let us begin. A woman with a medical problem in both of her eyes has been forced to have her left eye treated at one hospital and her right eye treated at a different hospital 30 miles away.
That has to be real.
It is real, yes. A cockerel that has been waking neighbours in Taunton, Somerset, has been given an ASBO. Ed.
Real.
Fake. Aardman Animations have forced YouTube to remove a graphic sex scene between Wallace and Gromit. Germaine.
Real.
Fake. At the World Cup in South Africa, special buses will ferry England fans from a pub to a nearby brothel. Ed.
Real.
That's real. Noel Edmonds' new quiz show, where the question master is a monkey, has been commissioned by Channel 4. Ed.
True.
Fake. But we'll be keeping our eyes on it. A Japanese company has developed a fire alarm that gives off the smell of wasabi rather than a screeching noise. Ed.
Real.
Real. Simply Red star Mick Hucknall has shaved...
Whatever it is, it's real.
I'll finish the question. Simply Red star Mick Hucknall has shaved his head and will sell his hair to the highest bidder at a Labour Party charity auction. And it's fake. London Underground have noticed a fault in their ticketing system, meaning that by tapping a real oyster on the Oyster card reader, you can get a free journey.
Fake.
Fake. And finally, Susan Boyle was mistaken for the Queen by Eurostar staff in Paris. Germaine.
Real.
It is real. So at the end of that, the winner is Germaine. Congratulations. Let's have a look at a few of the ones you all got wrong in the buzzer round. Germaine, you believe that they've asked YouTube to take down a sex clip between Wallace and Gromit. I found that very plausible, I must say, because I think there are all sorts of people mock up all sorts of animation sex clips.
That means it's still up there.
Can you imagine the dedication that you're having to do every second of this sex encounter over weeks and months, just changing the plasticine?
You'd only have to do it once, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then just put it on repeat.
Noel Edmonds' new quiz show, where the question master is a monkey. Do you believe that?
Did we? Yeah, wasn't that on last week?
Last week, one of the true things was that Noel Edmonds' company has pitched an idea called Beat the Monkey, where the quiz master is a monkey.
I thought they might have at least commissioned a pilot.
No one has yet commissioned it, but it would be great, and I think we might put that in every week. And then 1 week it'll be true. So thank you to my guests, John Richardson, Germaine, Greer and Ed Byrne. Join me next time when coming out of the bubble will be Sue Perkins, Norman Tebbit, Clive Anderson and Sarah Millican, although I may have made one of those up. Good night.
Coming up, Banksy, Henry Moore and Alice in Wonderland. Challenging chat with The Review Show here on BBC Two at 11 after Newsnight next.